Hello, friends. Yay, I finally made it back on, and I finally worked out that issue that I was having with the video not playing in Ecamm Live. So if you're meeting me for the first time, how are you? I'm Tawana B. Smith. I love this time of the day when I can actually get on here and do something that I love, which is talking to you about travel. So that was opener, and I'm also messing around with different tools of this third-party software that I'm using, which is Ecamm Live. So I'm going live to Periscope using Ecamm. Okay, so let me just share that broadcast out. There we go. Hello, Janice. How are you? Okay, so the first thing I want to do to take you on this virtual tour is show you a video. And the video that I'm going to be showing you is a video of one of the owners of the John Brown cabin. The cabin is reconstructed. So let's watch that video. Let's see.
59. He came into town. He changed his name to Isaac Smith. As I said before, he grew his beard out to liken himself to Moses to free the people. But Brown was such a charismatic man. These people followed him. They were slaves, free, white, black, you name it. They came here to follow this man. But he had these piercing eyes that once those eyes locked on you, you listened to him. And you usually ended up talking about two things, slavery and the Bible. And it usually ended up with slavery. He said it was a whore of a rotten institution, quote unquote. But Mr. Brown, Isaac Smith here, do you have something to say, sir?
Sure. Welcome to the farm.
Thank you.
We're gathering a troop of men here, the Provisional Army of the United States, to eventually make a move on Harpers Ferry and secure arms and ammunition. From there, we're going to proceed up into the mountains south of here, and hopefully we can spark an insurrection among the slaves so they can begin to free themselves. We have 1,000 pikes here. Firearms are pretty difficult to begin to operate, so we've got 1,000 pikes. We can train the men to use those pretty quickly. And we've got 150 arms stacked here, some of Mr. Beecher's Bibles. And we're going to use those to liberate a lot more arms down in Harpers Ferry. And of course, that's all secret. You can't tell anybody about that. But unfortunately, I have a twinkle in my eye today instead of a piercing glare. But
when they cut, I don't want to let you know about your demise, but when they cut him down off the gallows, he still had that glow in his eye, and they took candle wax and they melted into his eyes to see if he'd flinch. They thought he was still alive. So when he was here at the farm, John Brown was not very well known. After Harper's Ferry, he had the ear of the world, and that's what he wanted. He said during his trial, he knows what he did. He said he's here on trial. Whole humanity's on trial. The Golden Rule, the slavery question. He had a nationwide stage once he got on. Now, if he was killed down at Harper's Ferry, where she came to an inch of his life when the Marine went to get rid of him, end him, the sword hit his belt buckle and broke. So he spent most of the trial on a cot, but he became more famous as the trial went on. He wrote hundreds and hundreds of letters from Charlestown. So
Okay, so that is pretty much the video. And some of you know, earlier I was trying to play the video and I was having a little bit of issues, but that's okay. You got to get a snippet of it. And I'll just show you really quickly what I am able to do now here on the platform. So I will Just do that. And I can put your comments up there. So if you comment and you say something interesting, your comment's going to go up there and make it onto the broadcast. It's going to be pinned on the broadcast. So it's something really cool that Ecamm, they already did that, used to do that in Facebook. And so now they do it with Periscope. And so it's really, really cool. And I like it. All right. So this place is actually called Kennedy Farm. People know it as John Brown's Cabin, and it's located in Hagerstown, Maryland. And Hagerstown, Maryland is about, it's a really cool place. Hagerstown, Maryland is about from I want to say the Annapolis area. It's probably like an hour and a half, I think it was the drive, something like that. And so I had an opportunity to work with the Hagerstown CVB to just check out different things in the area. Some of you know that, a lot of what I do is also travel writing. And so I was able to go out there, check out some of the things that they do from self-care perspective, but also history. And Maryland has a really, really rich history. And I didn't even know that John Brown's farm was up there. And so the gentleman that you saw in the photo is, he is the son. It's an interesting story. He and his father found out that, knew about this Kennedy Farm. Pretty much everyone there knows about this place, this area. And it's kind of bordering right on West Virginia, not too far from that, and Maryland. And essentially, this place was going to be sold. The grounds were going to be sold and partitioned out, and they were going to put whatever, I don't know, some complexes there. So anyway, this family, this white gentleman purchased the land because he wanted to preserve the history. And he and his son, it's their own funds. They put their own money in, their own hands and, tools, and actually recreated this space based off of lots of history, lots of research. And, now it's getting more recognition, more people are coming to know about it. And so I was very blessed to be able to go up there and meet the gentleman that you see in there. And I'm going to also share with you some photos. I'm probably going to need to put my glasses on because when it gets late, I can't see. My eyes, guys, be bothering me. Yes, I do love Black history too. And what's exciting about our history is that, it's everyone's history. And it's exciting because there are details that, we just didn't know about because we didn't learn it. You're absolutely welcome. And so I want to share some photos with you all that I took while I was up there. But I also want to be able to give you some more information, some more, here we go. Danny, you had a great comment. So your comment makes it on the screen. Give you guys some more information. Let's see if this is the scene that I want to share with you guys.
59.
Okay, so that's the video.
He came into town.
So let's go to some, let's go here. And I think this is exactly, Danny. We weren't taught it. And that's the thing. That's the upsetting thing is that we weren't taught it. And, it's like a lot of stuff, right? Just like Ecamm says, our history goes trillions of years before slavery. Many, many years. So it's nice that now we have the opportunity to uncover a lot of this stuff. I think that I can make your comment a little bigger because it doesn't look as big when I see it on Periscope. Okay, so yes, our history does go trillions of years before slavery, Ecamm. So if you guys don't want to see your comment and your picture, don't say anything interesting because I'm going to post it because I love this feature. Okay, so let's look at some pictures, guys. Let's look at some photos of this area. Okay, and let me know if you have any questions. You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. So what's cool about this place is that, here we go. here are some of the tools that, again, they did a lot of research to see what were the types of tools that they used inside John Brown's cabin. Okay, so let me read to you a little bit of what I read in here. So on the 17th of October, 1859, the citizens of Harpers Ferry set to put down the raid. Harpers Ferry manufactured guns, but the citizens had little ammunition. So during the assault on the raiders, they fired anything they could fit into a gun barrel. So they were basically attempting to put down the John Brown insurrection. Okay, so this is a little bit of what I'm reading to you. On one man was shooting 6-inch spikes from his rifle, one of which struck one of the men that I'll tell you about, Dangerfield Newby, in his throat. Okay, so they were just pulling all types of things to put down this John Brown insurrection. But I will get to reading a little bit more of that in a second. All right, so those are his tools there. And let's go here and look at this. All right, can we get that up there? I'll just keep. All right, so when you go up there, essentially, you'll see this sign which, tells you that, it's American history and it's raw American history. They're still uncovering a lot of things. And so, they are taking donations. Hello, Doug. How are you? They are taking donations to help them with making sure that they continue to manufacture and replicate the farm the way it used to look, the cabin. And so they have done a really, really good job, really, really good job. The location is in Hagerstown, Maryland. Hagerstown, Maryland is where it is located. And I want to read something for you guys that kind of gives you a little bit of context in all of this. And so I just need to find it here, what I read. Okay, this is what I wanted to read. Oops, this is what I wanted to, nope, come on, right here. This is what I wanted to read. Yes. So it says, it was not Carolina, but Virginia, not Fort Sumter, but Harpers Ferry, not Major Anderson, but John Brown, who began the war that ended slavery and made this a free republic. When John Brown stretched forth his arm, the sky was cleared. The armed hosts stood face to face over a chasm of a broken union, and a clash of arms was at hand. And that was from Frederick Douglass. So, again, really, really interesting. Pretty much the argument is that it really was John Brown who started the trend. It wasn't, and I know you see even the Harpers Ferry, which isn't that far from here. It's not too far. It's just kind of like over a ridge from where John Brown is. And so essentially, John Brown and his men, they went and they raided the marine ammunition area down there to get weaponry to fight and, to fight against the white men and to free slaves. So, Frederick Douglass saying that it was not Carolina, but Virginia, not Fort Sumter, but Harper's Ferry, not Major Anderson, but John Brown, who began the war that ended slavery. So really, he and other historians are like tracing it actually back to John Brown, who started this catalyst. So it's really, really interesting because everyone thinks that it's the Civil War, but you had this man who, basically was like, he felt commissioned by God. He was looking at everything that, the white men were doing. If you don't know, he was white himself. And he was like, no, this is wrong. And we're going to change it. So very, very interesting story. And again, to hear history retold properly, because we learn history another way, and history books will tell us that it was the Civil War that started things off, when it was actually not the Civil War that started things off. If you go back to see, well, what were some of the events that started things off? Yeah, you know what, Doug, my husband is a huge history fan. And the thing about this Kennedy farm, or John Brown's farm, is that, it's not like open to the public right then and there. This was like their grand opening. And so, like I said, the owners were there, and so I had the opportunity to attend that opening with them. And so they you have to make appointments to go up there, or they'll announce when they have it open. And so a lot of the Blacks that still live in that area, their families go way back. Like, their families lived there. Their families were descendants, and, they stayed in the area. So it's really interesting. And the interesting thing, where are my notes? Because I had some notes in here that I wanted to make sure that I read to you guys. That's not it there. Where are my notes? So Washington County. So this area is, because we do, counties. This area, Hagerstown, is considered Washington County. And Washington County is the most affected area in regards to the Civil War. You have both Northern and Southern sympathizers. A lot of history there. And honestly, man told me, he was like, oh, we've got the KKK still down the road. And you have some areas like that in Maryland where, you still have the KKK live and running, like doing their things. I mean, even here in Maryland, not far from me, you do have that faction. So, oh, did you stay in Hagerstown? Hagerstown is a nice little town. If any of you know the novelist Nora Roberts, she's written hundreds of books. She has an inn there, the Inn at Boonesboro. I'll probably do another broadcast to show some photos of her inn. It's a beautiful bed and breakfast that I had an opportunity to stay at, luxury area. So the farm doesn't have public protection right now. John Brown rented it actually for a period of years. He rented it for a period of years. Harpers Ferry, just to give you all some context, Harpers Ferry was where the National Armory was, and Brown was going there to seize it to stage a slave revolt in order to end slavery. So again, this is where we're going back to it. And what happened was that the Black Elks, hello, sweetheart, how are you? Thank you for joining. And those of you who are watching, you find that this is interesting, please share this out with other people so that they can see it, they can watch it when they have time to watch it. Okay. Oh, I like Antietam too. There's a lot. Exactly, Doug. There's a lot in that area as far as, history goes. You've got Antietam there. You've got Harpers Ferry. You've got John Brown's cabin. Lots of stuff. Yeah. The battlefield stuff is really interesting. And I'll tell you something. My son, this is why travel is really important for, kids as well, because it takes them out of the classroom and into the living space, right? And so when we first started taking, when I would go on these trips and I have these assignments, especially like with Gettysburg, I would say, tell my husband, come on, like, let's go. Right. Monocacy is great too. Let's go, all go as a family. And when we started doing that, I saw how my oldest son, Amir, how his trajectory in history took off. And so now he's at a place where his teachers, he's in 8th grade now, and they have recommended him for honors history for 9th grade. And more than likely, he'll go into AP history. And that's because he traveled with me and he saw like some of the scopes that I did like a couple of years ago, where I showed you all some of these like old plantations and stuff like that, or, different areas. I've taken my family there and he's seen that stuff. And, you kind of have to be, I was trying to be a little sensitive about it because I didn't know how much I wanted to expose to him at such a young age, and I wanted to protect him from certain things. But I knew that, hey, he has this opportunity that I didn't have when I was younger, which is to learn about our history in a very hands-on way. And maybe I would have been more interested in history if I actually had gone out to these places and seen these things and had an experience with reenactors. So that's why he's doing really, really well with all this stuff. Okay, so that's really cool. So let's go to another. I'm reading through my high school Civil War notes from Jerry Maxwell's class as we speak. Oh, is that so, Doug? That's actually really interesting. That's really, really interesting. This is not, I keep going back to that. You missed the video, Doug. So go at the beginning, to see the video of that. Okay. So here is, let me close this one up and open this. So when you go into the cabin, right? When you go into the cabin, what they've done is, again, they tried to put, find different pieces that would have been, true to the time. So, the little lamp stuff, desks, whatever they could find. So I'm sure that they've, sourced things in antique places, some of the things that they may have built themselves. Hey, Corinne, welcome to your first day on Periscope. And so this this mannequin is supposed to be a rendition of John Brown, right there. So it's supposed to look like him a little bit. Okay. This right here is the gentleman that I was telling you about. That is Kit. This is the son of the owner. And so he's a history buff. You talk about history buff, Doug, like this man, he was like, he wanted to like talk to me for like an hour. But of course he had other guests because a lot of people were interested and they had traveled. They heard about it and they traveled to come see this farm because it had not been opened before. It had not been opened before. So this was the first day it was open. So a lot of people were interested in it. So this was my first time actually holding something in my hand. And so I want to see if those of you who are watching know what this is that I am holding in my hand. Let's see who gets it first. It's like Jeopardy. What is that I'm holding in my hand? Okay, you said, wow. But what am I holding in my hands? Cotton. Exactly. Cotton. So those are, cotton seeds. And so you see those brown hands, my ancestors' hands, this right here, that is what I would have been doing, before 65? Doug told me the exact year. I'm bad at the years, right? It's cotton. It's cotton. It's cotton. So it was crazy. Like my spirit wanted to repel it. I was like, I wanted to get this out of my hand. No, of course it was easy. I know. But I just wanted to, it was like a quiz. We're trying to be fun here on the broadcast. I wanted to quiz everyone and see. But, my spirit was like, get that out of your hands. And just, as a African American, you go through so many emotions sometimes when you go to these places. I know, again, when I took people on a virtual tour of the plantation in Virginia, and Janice saw that particular broadcast a couple of years ago when we did Black History Month scopes. We, like, a lot of people who were on a broadcast were just having so many raw emotions because they had never seen in real life plantation, a redone plantation. So I'm sure you can find still random cotton fields in Texas. I'm sure you can, but I had never, again, this is real stuff. Your ancestors had to toil and do these things. Obviously that slavery existed. We're still dealing with things today, but to actually hold cotton in your hand like that, like raw cotton, it was wild. It was wild. So, Yeah, it was literally still on the books in Mississippi and removed 2013. I believe you on that. So yeah, so that was the cotton seeds that I was holding in my hand. And I think I have it somewhere. I don't know where I put it. I think I might have put it in a tin. Yes, Janice, it was a fun scope. Fun scope. First time John Brown appears. Okay, Doug, making it onto the screen, brother. First time John Brown appears in my notes is in 1856 in Kansas. Yeah, he kind of was like all over the place, right? I forget the story of how he ended up here, but he did move around a bit with his family. So that knowing a little bit more of his history is pretty interesting. The area right now, the John Brown area, is actually marked as a National Historic Landmark and register. And so it took them time to fight to get that because, as I was getting ready to tell you, the Black Elks actually bought the farm in 1950 and they owned it until 1965. And what they would do was that they would stage concerts there every week. And so I'll show you some of the pictures of like where they staged these concerts, and Tina Turner performed there and just a whole list of different people. And what I'm also going to do next week, we'll probably have an interview with the director of the Hagerstown CVB and the author of a book who I met there. And he wrote about this history there of the Black Elks, which was kind of like getting lost. And he had heard stories, like growing up in the area, he had heard stories. And so he started doing research on this juke joint, basically, that the Black Elks had purchased on John Brown's farm, because that building wasn't really there. The, redone cabin wasn't there. It had been leveled. So you would have never known that, right? So he did some digging. He talked to, the grandchildren. Actually, he had spoken to people who were still alive, who remembered going to this juke joint where, all these big names like Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, I will show you the list of names shortly, had performed. They remember going there when they were little, like getting let in. So some of those people are still alive. So it's really, really interesting stuff. Really, really interesting stuff. So, I can't wait to show that to you guys. So there is the cotton. Here's a photo of the actual historic landmark plaque that they have there. It was designated to them from the National Park Service, 1974. So I guess if you went to the National Park Service and you wanted to see some of these historic landmarks, what's cool is that they have historic landmarks that a lot of us don't really know about. You know about the big ones, but like little ones like this, you don't necessarily know about unless you do some digging to find out about it. So that is their plaque right there. Okay, we've got that one. I'll show you this one. Close that out. I'm still kind of learning learning the software, so be patient. So here, they worked to figure out what the inside of the cabin looked like. And John Brown did have daughters. And so that would have been one of his daughters working around the cabin to keep, doing work that women did, which was, keep the home. So I think he had 2 daughters, if I'm not mistaken. He had 2 daughters. I'm trying to look at my notes. How many daughters? Hello, Ramala. How are you? So I do know, yes, I am on my computer. I'm on my computer. I'm not on my cell phone. I'm using software called Ecamm Live, which allows me to go live from my computer to Periscope, which is a very new thing that's just happened. Maxwell said his plan was to ultimately overthrow the government and set himself up as a military dictator. Who? John Brown was trying to set himself up as a military dictator? You're welcome. Hello, Ramala. He was trying to, I know he was trying to overthrow the government. That much I did know, but I didn't know about the piece of him trying to set himself up as a military dictator. I do know that he was a very religious man, and always had his Bible and quoted from his Bible. That was pretty well documented. So let's close out of that one and show you this photo. Let's see. All right, okay, so this was one of the gentlemen. I can't remember this guy's name, but he was, one of the men helping Brown basically, create weapons to start the insurrection. I cannot remember what his name was. Let's see, who else do we have here? What other questions do you guys have? Okay. So when they, while they were plotting everything and while they were, they were basically hiding out in this farmhouse. And so they had the bare basics, the bare basics. And so that's where you see these kind of really flat mattresses, on the ground like that. And when you actually go to touch it, it all feels very, very raw. These are like military grade almost blankets, like, very, very, very raw. And you can see that there is a book there. It wasn't a Bible, but I think that particular bed was Dangerfield Newby's bed. And he is a relevant character in the story. All right. That's the bed. We'll close some of that. We keep showing you the same thing. All right. All right. We'll close this one. And, let me get over here. This is what it would have looked like with, you washing your clothes by hand, and you have to have the clothes hang up and dry there. They had the very basics when it came to clothing. And there, it would have been dark up there. They tried to keep it dark. They didn't want to necessarily show that there was any activity happening inside this barn and on this farm, on this land, because of course they were, doing things. And they did not want to know that there were black men up there and that they were plotting. And so they had to have low lighting. They had to be quiet. They, had to sneak things in at night, whether it was weapons or food. They didn't really have fires going too much because, again, they were trying to be covert about what they were doing. So this is a view of the room from the other side. Again, as you can see, so they're still building out things. Also says Brown and Douglas met at 185 East Congress Street here in Detroit once to discuss Harper's Ferry. Wow, that's really interesting. Wow. There is a bit of history on that, Doug, and I've got to find that. There was, I don't know if it was the Dangerfield person, the guy, that character. I don't know if it was him or someone else who they did meet. Brown and Douglas met because I think Brown had wanted Douglas to join him. No. That's perfect. That's relevant. Brown had wanted Douglas to join him, and Douglas was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Because, he had his own agenda of how he was going to do things. He wasn't going to be, a man of action in that particular way. And so a colleague of his, he sent him to, join Brown. And of course, that man was killed. But if Frederick Douglass had joined him, we would not have had Frederick Douglass for as long as we had. And so, that is the truth. They did apparently have a conversation about him joining him. So I didn't remember exactly where they met, but that makes sense. All right, we saw that. We'll close this out. Hi. I know, it is crazy. It's very crazy. It's like fun history too. All right, let's show this. All right, we saw that one already. Be good if I label my photos. All right. John Brown's convention was in Chatham, Kent, Ontario, Canada. Oh, really? Wow. I wonder what the connection is with that. So again, they are these historians, so to speak. They're like self-proclaimed historians. They pretty much want to show what would have been some of the things that you would have found in this cabin, the types of foods you would have found there, the types of tools you would have found there, an axe there. That's the way people would have washed their clothing there, eggs and, the cistern and the fruit. So very interesting. And they're very deliberate about how they are, making sure that this replica of his cabin is as accurate as possible. Guys, I took a lot of pictures. I just want to let you know. I took a lot of pictures. Okay. I need to label them. It makes it a little easier. Yep. So again, some more pictures of tools and things around the cabin. All right, 8996. All right. So that would have been the headquarters. John Brown met a church with free and enslaved men to plan the Harpers Ferry raid. This is amazing, Tawana. I was there probably 10 to 15 years ago and wanted to see inside so bad. Well, now you can. Now you can. So here were the guided tours of, they just had a sign to let us know what time the guided tours were. And, they started at 9 in the morning, went to 3:45. And you were able to, view, there's like rooms on top, and then there were some rooms on the bottom from the porch between the tours. So it was a lot of different area for you to cover and for you to see while you were there. Yeah, Doug. So you can't just wander on the land. Actually, it's not, although it's a National Historic Landmark, it's not being managed by the National Park Service. It's being managed by the family, the private family that own that land. So the county, Washington County, so the Hagerstown CVB, they were actually trying to purchase it, and they were having issues with getting the money, if I remember correctly what they said. And this family jumped in and got it before them, and they're fine with it. Hagerstown CVB, they're fine with it. They just wanted to make sure that someone purchased it other than a developer and desecrated it and put stupid housing on it. They wanted to preserve the history. So it's a good thing. And they're very, the CVB is very supportive of, everything that this family is doing, which is great. I am really I'm really happy that they did it. Like, they're good people, they're good people out there, which is, exciting to see every once in a while. All right. Where are we up to with our photos? When did you said 10 to 15 years ago, Doug? Okay, so that gives you an idea of what that land looks like. So if you look at the top of the picture, it was a lot of cloud overcast, but it's a lot of trees. So imagine at that time, in 1850s, like how much more of that was filled in, right? But really thick brush there. Still a lot of trees there now. And so this is pretty much what the land of it would have looked like, maybe minus some trees. And so there, if you look far out, you will see that was the entrance to drive onto the property, right? And so the vantage point from a tactical perspective, John Brown, where they were situated, they had a great vantage point, but your vantage point doesn't matter if you don't have enough people to fight off, to defend yourself against, the offense. So, obviously eventually they went down, but they still had all of this space where they could see when people were coming for them. So, and I didn't see the movie. Did anybody see the movie? There was a movie of this, I think, if I'm not mistaken. What was the name of the movie? Did anybody see the movie? Anyone? So this man right here is Dangerfield Newby. That's the gentleman right there in the picture, and he was the first raider to die. So let me read a little bit of his story. Dangerfield Newby was the oldest of John Brown's raiders. That's him there. One of 5 black raiders and the first of his men to die at Harpers Ferry. Now, his story is it's like horrible. To die at Harpers Ferry, Virginia. Born a slave in Farquhar County, Virginia, Newby married a woman who was also enslaved. Newby was later freed by his Scottish father, but his wife and 7 children remained in bondage. A letter found on his body revealed the motive for joining John Brown and the raid on Harpers Ferry. Newby's wife was the slave of Jesse Jennings of Arlington or Warrenton, Virginia. She and her children were sold to Louisiana after the raid. Newby had been unable to purchase the freedom of his wife and 7 children. Their master raised the price after Newby had saved the $1,500 that had previously been agreed on. Because all of Newby's other efforts had failed, he hoped to free them by force. So basically, he was told that he needed to come up with $1,500 to free his wife and his children. And then when he came up with the $1,500, the SOB who had agreed with him on that price changed it and raised it. So of course you would understand why he would be mad and be like, okay, no, now I'm not going to try and be peaceful about this. Because of all of his efforts, he failed. He hoped to free them by force. Harriet's poignant letters found on his body, I think that's his wife, proved instrumental in advancing the abolitionist cause. Newby was 6'2". So this is where I was coming to tell you about where I started off talking about this. So on the 17th of October, 1859, the citizens of Harpers Ferry set to put down the raid. Harpers Ferry manufactured guns, but the citizens themselves had little ammunition. So during the assault on the raiders at John Brown's farm, they fired anything that they could fit into a gun barrel. One man was shooting 6-inch spikes from his rifle, one of which struck Newby, Dangerfield Newby, in the throat, killing him instantly. After the raid, this is a horrible part, the people of Harpers Ferry took his body and stabbed it repeatedly, and they amputated his limbs. His body was left in the alley to be eaten by hogs. In 1899, the remains of Newby plus remains of 9 other raiders were buried in a common grave near the body of John Brown in North Elba, New York. Dangerfield Newby's descendants are still alive today. Tyler Newby currently lives in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. Josh Newby lives in a suburb of San Francisco, California. And Drew Strom lives in Massachusetts. And they had a letter from Harriet Newby. I know, Newby's story is like horrible. And so let me give you context. So that picture that you see there, the color one, so that black and white is Dangerfield Newby. And that picture that you see right there, because Dangerfield was a free man now, is the alley in which they put his body and left it to the hogs. And so now that alley is actually called Hog Alley, and that's what it's called today in Hagerstown, Hog Alley. So yeah, I was going to drive by it and then I was like, no, I don't want to do it. So yeah, that is the story of Dangerfield Newby. It's crazy, right, guys? It's real crazy. All right, what photo are we up to? What do you guys think? Okay, so this photo here, if you kind of look a little bit there, those are some of the reenactors. So, soldier reenactors that are there. There's some sort of marker that's there. I didn't actually get to see that marker, but this is in Maryland. This is in Maryland. This is in Maryland. Yep. So the land is actually really beautiful. Do we see this photo? Okay, that's what I just read to you all just now. Okay, that information. And we saw this photo. Thank you, Janet. I can't take you anywhere. So it's a virtual travel scope, right? So this is the information that you want to know. If you want to go to the website, it's johnbrown.org to find out any more information. But, you know, the farmhouse, which is called Kennedy Farmhouse, it does not receive federal, state, or local funding. It operates as a nonprofit 501c3, and it depends solely on donations. So, you know, I definitely donated when I was there. So they're asking people for, you know, $4 donation because, you know, the truth of the matter is that this father and son, this family, like I heard the father's wife, like the mom was like, what? You're crazy. He had put so much money into this, you know, this was like his project. It's been way too long since I've been over that way. Well, come on down, Doug. Let me know. We'll go over there together when you are. Thanks, Alan. Thank you. When you're in an area, we can go do a tour. Just let me know. I'll hook it up with the local CVB. So yeah, it helps to defray the cost in keeping the grounds open to travelers. Yep. All raised funds will be used solely on the maintenance of the landmark. Yep. So they're still trying to build things up. There's like a smokehouse that they are trying to raise money to rebuild there, a replica of that smokehouse. Who else has been to this area? Who else has been to this area? Okay, we just saw that one. I really need to label my photos. All right, again, yeah, give it some thought. Again, this would have been what, you know, you would have found inside the home, baskets and such. Oh, okay. Do these things. Do this a little better. All right, lots of photos. Let's see. All right, so that's a picture of John Brown and what he looked like. That's what he looked like. And so he's got, you know, the characteristic long beard, the piercing black eyes, the crazy white hair, and he would wear this black garb. Yeah, you've been to Harpers Ferry. I have some Harpers Ferry pictures. It's on somewhere else on my camera. And when I went there, it was really weird. It was like, it felt really eerie. So I didn't stay too long. Yeah, you should visit Hagerstown for sure. I didn't stay too long because, you know, sometimes some of these places, like old battlefields, guys, like some of these places, like I think that where there was a lot of death, you have some of us who are maybe more in touch, more intuitives, more, what do you call them, empaths, feel things. So you felt that too, Doug? Right. You might feel more than other people. And so I know the first time I went to the Gettysburg battlefield, one part of that Gettysburg battlefield, I felt more energy than I really wanted to feel. I really like to get into that stuff. And when I was at Harpers Ferry, because it was kind of like dusk, I was feeling a bit more than I really wanted to feel. So I just kind of took a couple of pictures, got in my car, got out of there because I don't play that. I was like, gotta go. Oh, did they? They defaced the John Brown statue in Kansas City, Kansas. I believe it. I've been over 60 of them. My parents have never understood it. What did they not understand, Doug? Did they not understand that why you went to so many of them, or did they not understand your feeling? Because it's not something that you can make a person understand. They just have to feel it themselves. earlier this month. Interesting. Interesting. Hey, if you guys think that this is interesting as well, make sure you share it out on Periscope. Invite your followers. Send out some hearts. Periscope has a new feature now where you can do like a timestamp. Like you can do a timestamp thing. So on the bottom there's going to be like this little arrow. And if you hit that arrow, then you can timestamp where you think is like the most interesting of the broadcast. And you can like share that part of it out. So I think that's cool. I haven't played around with it that much, but I just saw it tonight. Okay, are we up to this photo? The rush and connection I feel to the history and the sacred ground. That's not something that you can explain to someone, my dear. Okay. So this man is Shields Green. And if I'm not mistaken, Shields is the gentleman who was the colleague of Frederick Douglass. Yes, I believe he was a colleague of Frederick Douglass and the one that said that he would go instead of Frederick Douglass. So I'm just checking my notes. Just seeing. Okay, so Shields Green was from Charleston, South Carolina, and he joined Brown. And I don't know if you know this, Doug. So John Brown not only had asked Frederick Douglass, but he had also asked Harriet Tubman. So Frederick Douglass said no. And this man, Shields Green, if I, again, not mistaken, Shields Green knew Douglass and was a colleague of his and said he would go. And Harriet Tubman, the only reason why she wasn't there was because she was sick. That's why she wasn't there. Yes. That's why she was not there. It was because she was sick. So that's a very interesting tidbit of history about Harriet Tubman's connection to John Brown and that insurrection. Yep. Isn't it interesting? She was sick because she probably would have been down for the cause. So who originally owned that area, this John Brown, this Kennedy farm, it was Antietam Iron Works. They were the ones who owned the area. And just to let you know a little bit about that, this is one of the most historic places in African American history, just to let you know, because you've got the John Brown farm and that being kind of like the start of everything, like the catalyst to, the Civil War. But you also have the music history that's there, the juke joint. And I'll probably need to do that in a separate broadcast because there's just so much I have to tell you about that. And I actually have this book right here, John Brown and James Brown, which was written by Ed Meliscus. And so I believe he's going to come on the broadcast and do an interview with me to talk about it, right? So that'll be interesting. So I kind of want to wait until like I have a firm date for him. And then we can talk to him a little bit more. You can ask questions. And when I know that date, I'll let you guys know so that you can, make sure you hop on. And so he did a lot of research. Let me see. It took him 8 years to do the research to figure out the connection between John Brown and James Brown and the juke joint that was built on this farm. And he wanted to make that connection between John Brown and James Brown. So, yep. Yeah. Oh, am I? You're so funny. Yeah. So very, very interesting stuff. All right. So that's Shields Green. And definitely this is not stuff that any of us are learning in school. So this is the house in which, John Brown's pikes were found. So this was a sketch from a correspondent. House in which John Brown's pikes were found. I don't know what they mean by pikes. I don't know. I'm going to need to ask somebody for clarification on that when they say pikes. Does anybody know what pikes are? I don't know what that is. If you know, let me know what pikes are. All right, that was what I was reading to you before, that quote from Frederick Douglass that said that this was really the start of it. This is what began the war to end slavery. I'm telling you, this is why my teacher was a genius. Why was your teacher a genius? All right. So this right here is the illustration. Smoking pipes? It's pikes. P-I-K-E-S. They said P-I-K-E-S. Not pipes. Pikes. The Harpers Ferry insurrection. So as you see, that paper is dated November 26, 1859. John Brown's fort was on the campus of Storer College. That is, so you see right there, that's the he had a little farm in front of the actual house right there. And next to it, that building next to it would have been the smokehouse where they, cooked their meats. And so it says, Old John Brown's residence, Kennedy Farm, Maryland, from a sketch by our own correspondents. So the house of Cook, no textbook, did all his own research, spellbinding storyteller, and was teaching all of it. Okay, cool. You guys see those hearts right there? Do that. Okay, I've got to read that. I'm going to have to read the writing there, the text there a little bit more. This in a public high school in the 80s in Detroit suburbs. Yeah, I mean, Doug, there are going to be people that are just fantastic at what they do, and they're not just doing it just to be doing it. Hey, what's up, Mike? And so that's who your teacher was. Like, he had a passion for it. You probably should be a history teacher. And so, he did extra work. And honestly, if you're going to tell a history, then, tell a history, like do it right. And so, thank goodness for your teacher. Let's see what we've got here. Thanks for joining us, Mike. All right. So that is a picture of what John Brown's, an illustration of what his farm looked like back then. This photo here, let's see what we got going on. All right, so that's the smokehouse, right? That's their next project. That's the next project. Oh, the Niagara movement met at John Brown's fort at Storer College. Okay. Oh, gosh, there's so much connection there. It's crazy, so much connection. So the smokehouse around 1859, and so that's the reconstruction cost, $29,000 to reconstruct this smokehouse. And of course, they're trying to do it as accurately as possible. And, the donations are pending. So they are showing you all of the phases of this, right? I've got to go back up there because I've got to, I just want to help them out any way that I can. If, I don't know what my role is, but hopefully sharing this broadcast, if you guys will share this broadcast, maybe people will go to, what was the website again, Alan? johnbrown.org? johnbrown.org. I should probably put it above my head. Then, perhaps that would spur people to go to the website and make a donation so that they can, bring this history back to life and preserve it. Very interesting stuff. Where are we at now? Oh, so this is that juke joint. This is the juke joint. And it is called, it's the IBPO, I think it's PW. I can't remember what it's called, but that's where the Elks bought the land and the Elks built that building. So if any of you know what that, stands for, please let me know. W.E.B. Du Bois and others took off their shoes and bowed down before entering John Brown's fort. Wow. That's pretty heavy. Yep. So what they wanted to do here, because the letters were faded, they wanted to make sure that they repainted it over it. The inside it pretty much, they just left it. Like, when they ran out of money, when the Elks ran out of money, this area, they just kind of left things as is. But that is where they had these concerts of little known talent named Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, and who else did they say sang there? Etta James. They also sort of played there. So very, very cool stuff. What do you mean, what are they stealing? I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see, what's this? All right, that photo right there. Incredible to have a juke joint on John Brown's farm. I know, isn't that crazy? It's crazy. This book that I was telling you guys about talks all about it. I haven't read it yet. I haven't read it yet. So, improves benevolent protective order of elks of the world. Okay, improves benevolent protective order of elks of the world. There are problem people in this world, and you know what? We just gotta block them. Okay, thank you, Mike. Isn't this car great? It's a sweet car. Like, yeah, I don't know whose car that is. I didn't get a chance to ask. I was just so long on an actual cabin. I didn't actually get to go and ask about this car or, where it's coming from, but that was on the property. So they can't even begin to renovate the elk juke joint yet because they're still trying to do the farm stuff. And so it's a lot of money. Like they said, it's like $1 million in order for them to be able to, do everything that they need to do. So it's like one phase at a time. So cool stuff. Anyone have connection to the elks? So these are pictures of some of the people that played at John Brown's farm. And so, okay, I was supposed to read this like a couple months ago. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it before I talk to the author again. So that when I talk to him and he asks me, did you read my book yet? I can, since he did give it to me. I'm not an elk, but I have done stories about them. Oh, thank you, Mike. This is great. So Mike, did you know about this connection that they purchased the land of John Brown's old farm, Kennedy Farm in Maryland? Yes, the elks there did that. So these are some of the people that played there. Chuck Berry, Fats Domino. I don't know if you guys can see the names. The Shirelles, Ike and Tina Turner, Wilson Pickett, Aretha Franklin, Little Richard, Marvin Gaye, Chubby Checker. A lot of these people have gone and passed. The Platters, Otis Redding, Bo Diddley, Patti LaBelle, and the Bluebells. Oh, okay. You became an elk as a child, but you're not active. Wow. Bo Diddley, Laverne Baker, Eartha Kitt, James Brown, Jackie Wilson. I said the Drifters, Etta James. Who's that? Clyde McSomething, Ray Charles, Fats Domino, B.B. King, Dinah Washington. So I know they are top acts. And I think maybe at the time, I can't remember if it was before they were big or whatever, but no, I think it might have been while they were getting big. So the reason, I know, isn't it crazy? And then there's a list of the names. The reason why people would come there to see them, by the busloads. They would come from DC, they would come from other parts of Maryland, they would come from New York, they would come and see them here on this farm. But then they would stop coming. They stopped coming because the buses the roads, the county wasn't doing their job in trying to improve the roads. And so as more and more people came, I believe the roads, kind of got more and more dilapidated. And when I have the director of the CVB on, when I interview him, he can give more details about that. Biddy Mason sent money to John Brown to help in his cause. Look at that fun fact. God, this is great. Just wonderful stuff that you guys are putting here. Mike, guess what? So Mike, this is one of the new features of Ecamm. I can put your information, your comment on the top there. So because of the roads, because of the compromise of the roads, buses stopped going through there. The buses stopped going through there. So obviously that meant less people stopped coming. And eventually, I think the Elks really petitioned for the county to fix the roads, and they would not fix them. Right. So, we know why, but again, I'll have the director of the CVB come and give us more details. Isn't that cool, Mike? That you can like put someone's comment up there. Like, that's a real relevant comment. So something that shows you like this really cool power of Ecamm. Yeah, it is awesome because that's a fun fact and everyone should know that fact. It's a really, really fun fact. Yep. Very cool. Those are the performers. And I'll just show you guys a few more pictures of the inside of the juke joint so that you kind of can see what it looks like on the inside. Yes, Ecamm Live, Doug. Ecamm Live. Oh, thank you, Mr. Dixon. Oh, you know what's so cool is that your name here on my phone, it shows your Periscope handle name, but here on the software, it shows your name. That's interesting that it does that. Right. Okay. So just to let you know, Mr. Dixon, so that you're not disappointed, and I want to manage your expectations. I don't always do Black History scopes. I do a lot of travel scopes. I do a lot of scopes for women for their self-care and their retreat. So I will make sure that I tag my broadcast appropriately to let you all know when I'm doing a Black History scope. I think that that's only fair. What do you say? Okay. Everyone get Mike's fun fact before I take it? All right, cool. Take it down. So this disco ball is the same original disco ball that would have been there, that was there when all of those performers were there. I mean, the place is pretty much untouched. Okay, so that is pretty cool to go in there and see some of these things that are still there. I mean, they put stored like junk in there and all that other stuff, but that disco ball is the disco ball that they had in there, which was neat. It's a pretty big space. So, like I said, they did store things in there, but it just kind of gives you an idea. It was a juke joint of the space, It just became a storage area after a while. Okie dokie. And let's see. I tried to test Ecamm on Facebook and failed miserably. I need to get back to it. Hello, David, your first time. Yeah, just try it out. It's not bad. This is an old, I guess it's like I can't remember. Was that an oven? I can't remember. It was old, so I took a picture of it. I can't remember what that was. I'll have to ask the director. If anybody knows what that is, just let me know. Okay. Here are some other things. A couple more pictures inside the juke joint. Yeah. So this would have been the back room. This would have been the dressing room area, if I'm not mistaken. This is like the dressing room area for them. Again, a bunch of storage stuff. If they get the money, then they can recreate what this space looked like. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard that, they really wanted to possibly, get one of the living performers to come out there, which would have been cool, like Aretha Franklin, before they go. Yes, it looks like an old stove for heating, a coal stove. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And yep, this would have been again, a part of that dressing area. And they actually found these earrings. I don't know where that picture is, that photo. They found these earrings there that they're not the author's wife. They were cleaning up and they found these earrings that were there in this back dressing room area. And they do not know who the earrings belong to. It's so like they had just found it that morning, the morning that I was there. And they were like, or the week that I was there, something like that. They had just found it. And so they were trying to figure out whose earrings does this belong to? Let me see if I have it. Okay, it's right here. There we go. Those are the earrings. Yep, their recent cleanup day. So they're like, were they Tina's? Were they Etta's? Were they Aretha's earrings? They don't know whose earrings they are. So I think that's so much fun. It's like, look at them. It's so cool. I don't know. I kind of geek out on stuff like this. I was like, wow, these could have been Etta James's earrings. Maybe they were Tina's earrings. Yep. So yeah, very, very cool stuff. So that is Harper's Ferry, not Harper's Ferry. That's John Brown's cabin. And before, I'm going to show you that video again for those of you who did not see it at the beginning, just to recap this area and just so that you can see the reenactor for John Brown and the gentleman that is helping to, one of the gentlemen that's helping to preserve this area.
59. He came into town. He changed his name to Isaac Smith. As I said before, he grew his beard out to liken himself to Moses, to free the people. But Brown was such a charismatic man. These people followed him. They were slaves, free, white, black, you name it. They came here to follow this man. But he had these piercing eyes that once those eyes locked on you, you listened to him. And you usually ended up talking about two things, slavery and the Bible. And it usually ended up with slavery. He said it was a whore of a rotten institution, quote unquote. But Mr. Brown, Isaac Smith here, do you have something to say, sir?
Sure. Welcome to the farm.
Thank you.
We're gathering a troop of men here, the Provisional Army of the United States, to eventually make a move on Harpers Ferry and secure arms and ammunition. From there, we're going to proceed up into the mountains south of here, and hopefully we can spark an insurrection among the slaves so they can begin to free themselves. We have 1,000 pikes here. Firearms are pretty difficult to begin to operate, so we've got 1,000 pikes. We can train the men to use those pretty quickly. And we've got 150 arms stacked here, some of Mr. Beecher's Bibles. And we're going to use those to liberate a lot more arms down in Harpers Ferry. And of course, that's all secret. You can't tell anybody about that. But unfortunately, I have a twinkle in my eye today instead of a piercing glare. But
when they cut, I don't want to let you know about your demise, but when they cut him down off the gallows, he still had that glow in his eye, and they took candle wax and they melted it into his eyes to see if he'd flinch. They thought he was still alive. So when he was here at the farm, John Brown was not very well known. After Harper's Ferry, he had the ear of the world, and that's what he wanted. He said during his trial, he knows what he did. He said he's here on trial. Whole humanity's on trial. The Golden Rule, the slavery question. He had a nationwide stage once he got on. Now, if he was killed down at Harper's Ferry, where she came to an inch of his life when the Marine went to get rid of him, end him, the sword hit his belt buckle and broke. So he spent most of the trial on a cot, but he became more famous as the trial went on. He wrote hundreds and hundreds of letters from Charlestown. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. Can't you just sit in there all day to learn about it? Doesn't it feel like you're actually right there? That's why I love reenactors. I love going to places where there are reenactors, and it's like, again, it brings the history to life. It's really, really powerful stuff. And so I have to see if I think I had some more video, but I'm not quite sure. And then, when we have, there was a John Brown cabin in also Watomie, Kansas that I visited. Oh, cool. Well, if you can share that with us, do that. Really, really awesome stuff. Really, really awesome stuff. So yeah. When I know more information about getting the CVB on here to interview, to answer any questions or to talk to us a little bit more about the area, I will let you guys know. I don't know the dates just yet. And then again, Ed Meliscus, the author of this book, John Brown to James Brown. I'm like really excited to read this book. I might just read it this weekend. We'll see. Where he talks about all of the different people that that played there, but also the people that were alive at that time that are still alive. Some of them are in this book, and they have a retelling of the story. All right. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't shared it out, if you're watching this on the replay, do share it out so that other people can get a little taste of, real U.S. history. And if you have a child that doesn't know, share it with them. I always share these things with my son so that, I'm making sure that I'm educating him. Appreciate you guys for watching and playing and talking to me this evening. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye.